What's up, everybody? This is BakaBites. I'm Frankfurter. That is Magically Average. And today we're talking about our favorite shows that we love to rewatch. Now, this kind of topic I feel like is very easy to talk about and very easy to ramble about. So I do want to put a little bit of parameters around it in the sense of I just want to talk about what makes a show rewatchable and amongst giving examples of our favorite shows because currently right now I am rewatching for the umpteenth time the entirety of Kaguya-sama Love is War. I am currently in the very beginning of season 3, and this show is just incredible. In my opinion, it is one of the best comedies out there, and I think that the show itself lends its strength in its characters, and I think that that's really where a majority of why I wanna rewatch shows, let alone like, the story amounts to some of it, but I feel like it's just the characters and how they are presented and their interactions between each other is what really gets me to rewatch a show. So, without further ado, let's just talk about a few of our shows that we really like and why we really like them. I, again, started Kaguya-sama again. I don't know, are you rewatching anything or have you rewatched anything recently?
No. That no.
You're giving me the face of,
We
"What a
talk
stupid question."
because it is. We talk week in and week out about how I'm behind on shows. When the hell would I have time to rewatch something I've already watched?
I don't know. Just whenever you can, I don't know, when you're pooping?
No. You and I have different priorities.
Apparently
I'm
so, but
I'm getting
tell
caught up on everything from even last season. But if I were to rewatch, I mean there's like a handful on my list that I will go back and rewatch. I think my main one is probably Fooly Cooly. And thinking through the other handful that are in my head right now that I'll talk about, my biggest draw is always the soundtrack. Soundtracks, I think, make for a very enjoyable viewing experience, even if you've watched it 500 times. Because it's just like listening to an album again. Like, I can listen to an album front to back, like 8 hours in a day, it feels like. So it's no different than if I were to watch Fooly Cooly and then go, that was fun. Well, time to rewatch it, and then just go back and watch it immediately right after. Like it's the same thing.
yeah, I think when it comes to music, if I'm gonna rewatch something music-wise or, like, for the music, it's either in recency bias, Bocchi the Rock, because despite all the comedy and everything, I think that the music in it is phenomenal, but also Cowboy Bebop, because I listen to the album every year. I listen to the album at least, a dozen times. Excuse me. And it's one of those things that I feel like I know the music better than I know the show. So whenever I do go watch the show,
Hmm.
I'm thinking, "Oh yeah, that's right. This song comes in at this scene," or, "I forgot that this scene included this song. This song is so good. Why is it wasted on kind of just a throwaway little scene?" So, for me, yeah, if I'm rewatching something purely for the music, it's definitely either Cowboy Bebop or Bocchi the Rock, which Bocchi the Rock is still recent in my opinion. I've probably watched it about 3 to 4 times now because I just think it's an amazing show. I think the music is in it is great, the comedy is great, and then just the character, as I said before, the character interactions in it are superb. So, just overall, those 2 definitely I can understand wanting to rewatch a show just for the music, and those 2 would be at the top of my list. But, yeah, I mean, excuse me, God, I have, like, something stuck in the back of my throat. Um, but I know more so for me, I feel like I do tend to go towards more comedies as a rewatch than anything else. So, like, as I've listed, Kaguya-sama is a comedy, Bocchi the Rock is a comedy, Cowboy Bebop is like an action comedy-esque,
Eh.
like, there's comedy elements to it. But, I think one of the newer shows that I've been rewatching or that I've rewatched this year, I mean, it came out last year, and I already really wanna rewatch it again, is Freerun. I just rewatched it in January, and it's one of those shows that when we found out last week that season 2 was coming out in January, I'm like, Yeah, I could rewatch that again. That was great. I really enjoyed it because there are things that you pick up, watching a show over and over again. Like I know this is like the sixth or seventh time or whatever that I've watched Kaguya-sama, and something I realized recently in the season 2 opening song, like something they introduced later in the show where Kaguya does like a calming ritual, like it's in the intro and I never saw that before. So it's one of those things like I do catch something every once in a while, or I catch something new with every watch that I give to a show. So Free Run is one of those shows though that is also so densely packed yet so free flowing that I feel like you can miss so many little details because you're drawn to other areas of what's being presented. So it's one of those shows that I do want to rewatch again just because I want to see all the small details that I didn't see before. Like I know the dancing scene between Stark and Fern is one of those, like, it's a tour de force in animation in general, but I feel like that there's so much in that particular scene and that episode in general that I want to go back and rewatch it again just to see everything again because there is so much to it.
Yeah,
I don't I,
I I don't know. My approach to rewatching anime though is like more of just the nostalgia factor than anything. And again, most of mine I can really just pick from being like having a really good soundtrack. Like I could go back and rewatch Soul Eater. I could go back and rewatch Bleach. Bleach has a great soundtrack to it. I can go back and rewatch Full Metal Alchemist because that's just a superb anime in itself. Like there's not a lot of new anime that I want to go back and like rewatch for any particular reason. A lot of it for me is just nostalgia.
yeah, and there are those for me as well. Like, I mean, I mentioned Cowboy Bebop, but even then, I think every other year, every 2 years, I kind of go on every other year for these two shows. I go back and watch Toradora, or I go back and rewatch Ouran High School Host Club,
Oh
which I
god.
know you're watching for the first time right now, and
Yeah.
I know you have thoughts on it, but for me, that it's still the rose tinted glasses. I know it's still a little problematic and it hasn't aged the greatest,
Yeah.
but it's still a good comedy, good show, and I love the interactions between each character. So, and again, it's another show that I catch some small detail here or there that I never realized, in my first watch through, let alone my sixth watch through. But and Toradora is very much in similar ilk where I catch something new every time I watch it, and it's another funny show. I feel like I lean more towards the comedies, as I said. So,
Because you live
but
a sad life.
I am so so sad. But I think I mean, other than Freerun, the only other show that I've really rewatched all the way through that's I'm gonna phrase newer, but it's not necessarily newer. I think it's about 10 years old at this point. Is Don Machi. I haven't gone through and watched the entirety of the series multiple times, but I've definitely watched the first 3 seasons a few times because I do really like that series. The series is one of my favorites. I think that the lore is very expansive, and just the character interactions again are fantastic. The story is fine. It's a coming of age, being power, gaining more power. It's good, but it's not like the greatest. It's more so everything else outside of the story. The characters, the world building, even to an extent, the music. The music is good and lends itself in. It does itself justice in a handful of different scenes, especially the action scenes. So I don't know. It's just one of those things that I think Don Machi is just kind of a fun one for me.
I realized something very critical in visiting you recently and why it
Oh
makes
boy.
this makes more sense to me on why you go back and rewatch over and over. It's because when you watch anime, you're doing like 50 other fucking things. Like I sit down like new anime too. Like I'm sitting down, like if I'm watching something, I'm sitting down 100% focused. on what I'm watching. You, on the other hand, are like, you could be like fucking flipping an omelet. You're playing a game on one hand. You're like, oh, I gotta go fucking go to the bathroom. You go like run to the bathroom and then you change it to your phone and then you come back out. You throw it back on your TV. Oh, now you're playing a video game and you're eating snacks and ooh, look at that. Gotta do taxes. You're doing taxes with your other, like, you're doing so many fucking things. And I'm like, yeah, no shit, you miss the little things because you're only barely watching it. So yeah, it
I
makes
wouldn't
sense why
say
you
I'm
go back
barely
and
watching
go
it.
back and rewatch Kaguya-sama for the bajillionth time and Don Machi, like the first 3 seasons of Don Machi and stuff. I think that's like
To be
that's your biggest fault.
to be fair, the only thing that we watched that was new was the brand new episode of Solo Leveling, which for that point, the newer episode, because we did rewatch the episode before,
Yeah.
that episode before, yeah, I was doing other
Well, yeah, that
things
makes
as well. But
sense.
even for the new episode, it wasn't the newest episode. I wasn't as bad as doing that. I was sitting down, just watching the show, taking it all in.
Yeah.
I think it also doesn't help that I know what happens in the story. I've read the story, so it's like, okay, I know that I don't have to fully pay attention to
And
this or that.
that's probably your other fault is that a lot of the series that you're watching you've read or at least you like know of and so you're just like, can like half pay attention.
That could be true, but I mean, that wasn't the sense for Kaguya-sama. That isn't the sense for, fuck, I just completely brain farted as to what the show is called. Apothecary Diaries. Like, there are shows out there that it's like I know of, I know that it has a rich background, but like I don't know anything about the story, and those I do pay attention to fully. It's just, yeah, if I do know the story, if I do know what's going on, I do tend to occasionally zone in and out for like a minute, if that.
I do tend to sometimes, often, almost exclusively not really pay attention.
You know, I try.
That's true. But again, I'm gonna sound like a broken record. Pun intended. But a lot of that's why like everything that I gravitate towards if I truly am in a mood of like I just want to rewatch something. A lot of times it's like it's very much based on current mood or for lack of a better phrase, health. Like if I'm like sick, like in bed sick, like can't do much,
Yeah,
I'll just be like, and let's say I'm caught up on anime, I just want to rest my head. I'll just throw on something in the background. But a lot of the times it's something that has a good soundtrack. So I can like it's more of just a listening experience than a viewing experience for me. So
that makes sense.
yeah, and I will say too, I'm very selective. Same with my new anime, very selective with what I rewatch. It's not like I wouldn't go back and rewatch. I'm thinking of anime that I really like that a lot of people probably could go back and binge. I wouldn't go back and rewatch Komi Can't Communicate. I probably wouldn't go back and rewatch, God, like even Delicious in Dungeon. It's great. And it's got a decent soundtrack. It's not like superb. A lot of the appeal is just the cooking parts and all the fantastic animation by Studio Trigger. But I'm like, if I'm just gonna rest and relax and go back and watch something, it's gonna be something that I can watch with my ears, like a Fooly Cooly, like a Cowboy Bebop that has a good soundtrack.
Yeah.
Something in that vein.
It is funny that you picked two of the shows that I've been thinking of rewatching recently. Like, I've been wanting to go back to rewatch Komi Can't Communicate because I've been buying the
No,
books that have been coming out, and I've finished reading the series, so I'm like, I kind of want to
no,
go back and rewatch it. And then
go.
Delicious in Dungeon, I'm like, it's only a matter of time before season 2 is announced. Let's just go back and,
Uh,
you know, watch it again.
just go watch Orb, please. For the love of this episode makes me more furious at you. Being like, what do you want to rewatch? Here's what I'm rewatching right now and what I want to rewatch. And meanwhile, I'm just like, go watch Orb, please. For the love of God, go watch it. It's on Netflix. It's almost all out. I think next Saturday, or maybe if I had 2 episodes left. I don't know. It's almost done.
I believe there's one episode left, if
Yeah,
memory serves me correctly.
it's almost done. Just go watch it, you big dummy.
Hey, I'm not big.
I want to go back and watch Fear.
I do. I really do. But that
Fear.
also is tied. No. That is also tied to the fact that I have a friend that started it and hasn't continued it because it was one of those things that they came over and we were just eating dinner before board game night or whatever, and I forced them to watch it. And they haven't continued it, but they're like, "Yeah, this is really good." I'm like, "Why haven't you watched more?" So I really like
Slumber
am in that
party.
mood of yeah, I'm in that mood of just like I want to sit their ass down and just watch it with them and be like, "Just watch the TV. Just pay attention. Pay attention to this. This is
Fear
important."
Fearon's one of those weird ones though where because like I barely even nowadays. I used to when I was younger. But nowadays, like I don't rewatch movies even. There are a handful that I do. Like I really like rewatching the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I wish the Hobbits movies were better, but oh well. Like a lot of just the older trilogies or series of movies, I really like going back and rewatching. Fearon's kind of in that boat though, because it's so slow throughout the
Mhm.
first season, the first two cores, that I feel like rewatching it would be just such a waste of time. Like it was a great watch through the first time. Like I loved it. And I'm excited for season 2. But at the same time when I'm thinking back, I'm like, God, really nothing all too grand happened throughout the first like 6, 7 episodes. So I
Yeah,
mean,
I would
if
say
I
it's a little slow in the
yeah,
beginning.
if I threw it on, it'd probably be like before a nap time, maybe, fall asleep to the nice soothing sounds of Freeren's voice and the melodic tones of some lute player that's just always in the background. But
Yeah.
it's in that like, and it's probably just because it's in a similar genre too. But it's in that same boat of like going back and rewatching like Lord of the Rings or um, God, like even Star Wars and stuff like that. Just stuff I would have in the background I would like barely pay attention to. Just kind of again like fall asleep or be reading and listening to. So, but again, if I truly go back and I want to rewatch quote unquote an anime,
Yeah.
um, it'd be anything with fantastic music. A lot of times too nowadays, and I know you're not in this boat, which is unfortunate, but a lot of the anime that I rewatch is with my wife. Like we rewatched all the way
Mm.
through Soul Eater. We are rewatching me partly because I haven't fully finished it either. Black Clover. We've watched through some handful of new anime and some older ones that we hadn't watched for each other. I'm watching Iran, like you said. Now we want to both her rewatch, me watch for the first time Haikyuu. So like that's where a lot of my rewatching experience is coming from now. But
That makes sense.
personal selection, if I were to sit my butt down or lay down and throw on some old nostalgic anime, it would be everything and anything with a good soundtrack.
Yeah, and it's funny you do bring up movies like Lord of the Rings has been on my mind so much recently. Like I keep seeing clips of it everywhere that I'm just
I
like I have not watched it in probably close to a decade.
I love
That
Lord
I'm
of the
like
Rings.
I should really fix that. Like
The
I
Lord
really do need to fix that. But there are like that led me to think like are there any movies that I rewatch often? And the answer is no with an asterisk. There are 2 movies in general that I will always rewatch. If I see it on, which one of them I will never see on TV or whatever, but in general, like if I see it, I'm like, I gotta watch it. Sorry, I'm already adding a third movie into it. But first one is Your Name. If I
Mhm.
will randomly get into a mood and I'll want to rewatch Your Name, it's an easy watch and it's one that my wife will actually watch with me. But the other two are just like one is deeply rooted in childhood nostalgia, or both of them are actually deeply rooted in childhood nostalgia that I'm just like, yes, I got to go back and rewatch that. And that is The Goonies, which is one of my favorite movies of all time,
Great movie.
and The Princess Bride, which is also another phenomenal movie.
It's a great
And
movie.
it's to the point where my wife had not watched it when we met each other. We watched it, and now whenever we go to bed, they're like we go through phases of she'll put something on the TV to fall asleep to, and then I'll put shows on the TV to either watch or fall asleep to.
Mhm.
And there will be the occasion where she'll put on The Princess Bride, and I look at her and I say, "Fuck you. Why did you do this to me?" Like, I have to rewatch all of this now. It's 11 PM, but I have to watch all of this now. because this movie is so goddamn good. But yeah, like I really find myself furthering and furthering away from rewatching movies. I also put an asterisk in there because I say three. Those three, without a doubt, I rewatch all the damn time. However, occasionally I will go to the theater and rewatch some of the Ghibli films for Ghibli Fest that they have every year.
Yeah.
So whenever I can, I'll try and go see Castle in the Sky in theaters. I think I saw an announcement today that they're bringing back Princess Mononoke for the
I
first
was
time ever in
you
4K, 4XD,
you bastard.
IMAX too. It's just like,
I
holy
was
crap, that's gonna be great.
That's what I was
You're
gonna mention. You
Yeah, but
turd.
it's just yeah, it's one of those things that like, yeah, for those movies, I'll definitely 100% go back to the theater to rewatch. But other than those three that I mentioned, like it's sparse.
Yeah, again, I rewatched a bunch of movies when I was younger. Like I think
Same.
it was probably like in the heavy years of like studying and not wanting to like be distracted but still have something that's entertaining, just something I was used to and could still find enjoyment from, even if it's like the 50th time I've rewatched it. Like I would rewatch Super Troopers all the time because that's great.
That's such a fun movie.
I love Snatch, the Guy Ritchie film. That's a great movie. Like just some random ones. I like the Broken Lizard Troop. I absolutely adore. So like, Beer
Beer
Fest.
Fest is great.
Yeah, Beer Fest is always good. Like, but again, it was more
Slam and
just
Salmon.
the Slam and Salmon's good. Club Dread. It's an
That is
early
actually
one.
the one that I have yet to
Oh,
watch. Like, it's
that one's a
been
good
on
one
that
too.
backlist for so long, and I'm like, I really need to get to this.
It's really good. But like again, those were mainly just because heavy years of studying, and it's like I don't want to invest time into something new, like get into like a new movie or a new TV show, and then I'm like, oh, I'm fully distracted. But yeah, for movies, I mean, the only ones I think now that I rewatch are the Ghibli films when they go out to theaters because it's just so much more fun watching them in theater than it
Seeing it
is,
on the big screen.
yeah, than it is like throwing it on whatever they're now on, Max, HBO, Peacock, whatever stupid streaming site that they keep jumping from.
Yeah,
Like,
I own a majority of them, so it's just like for me, it's just like I just pop in a disc.
yes, we all know you talk about him all the time. Your uncle lived in Japan and brought him back. Blah, blah, blah. No one cares, you privileged child.
You know
Anywho,
what? I offered to give you a fucking PlayStation 4
anywho,
so you could watch DVDs as well. So we could get over this fucking argument. But no, I don't want it to take up the space. I don't think I'll use it ever. And guess what? Now we find out that the only way to watch the Haikyuu English dubs is through the Blu-rays.
yeah.
So who's the fucking Joker now, bitch?
I mean, you still are. You basically were like,
No.
can you go out and buy? I can go out and buy a $10 Blu-ray player, or let me give you this multiple $100 PlayStation that I will not use as a PlayStation. I would just use it to play DVDs. That's like being like
You could
my
use
drive.
it as a PlayStation.
That's like saying my driveway is 500 feet. I could walk it, or I could just buy you a golf cart and you could just and then back. Like, no, stupid. I don't need it. That is unfortunate. The Haikyuu stuff is
Yeah,
unfortunate. But
the
like,
Haikyuu stuff is very unfortunate.
yeah,
But we said that what it was season 3 is still no. It's
four.
just the newest movie that's available in English dub, and
I
that is
think
on Crunchyroll.
4 in the movie, but
No, we looked at it. 4 was not.
oh well, then they've got some work on their hands. But yeah, there's again very
And now I'm
selective.
double checking my work.
Not even related to the topic. Whatever. The
No, it's not. Okay. Anyways,
the to get me to rewatch something again, especially like in the movie realm, it has to be special. Like I would love to do one of the special screenings of like the Lord of the Rings, or when they when they put back into theaters some of the like the older films on. God, I am not a cinephile. I'm gonna get skewered, but it's the specific camera. God, not lens, tape, recording.
film.
Thank you, Jesus, my brain.
You go watch a film. You go.
Well, no, it's a specific film type, like the how it's shot It's the
Oh, like the
it's
77 or 78 millimeter film
thank
or
you.
whatever.
Jesus Christ. Yes, thank you. I barely gotten any sleep lately. Like stuff like that,
Me
like
too.
anything that's remastered or reworked and put back in theaters, I would love to go to. My wife uh has never watched through Lord of the Rings and probably never will because she uses it to fall asleep. So if I do it, it's probably gonna be by myself if I watch the Lord of the Rings. But like if they were ever to reshow, the old Star Wars movies like 4, 5, or 6 in theaters, or any of like the classic.
Number
um
3 is coming back to theaters for its like 20th anniversary or whatever it is.
I just I just got really sad.
I know.
Not because it's 20 years old, but because that movie it's just okay. I mean, it's the best of the prequels, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's okay. Only
Although,
the last like
yeah.
20 minutes is good, um, but just stuff like that. And again, that's why going back and for like Ghibli Fest and watching the Ghibli films in theaters is so special because, we didn't get to see them when they came out in theaters originally. So it's great. It's wonderful. Even if I'm going to see, My Neighbor Totoro or Ponyo or Castle in the Sky or Howl's Moving Castle for like the 5th time at this point, it's still fun. But like,
Yeah.
the Princess Mononoke, like you mentioned, because just saw it today as well. They're like, it's coming back is in 4K and IMAX theaters, and I'm like, that's gonna be incredible. Like visually speaking, that's probably one of the more impressive ones. I know people will argue and say, "How is Moving Castle?" But it's like it's only like a handful of scenes. Like Princess Mononoke throughout is like pretty visually like
Stunning.
impressive. Yeah, I think Castle in the Sky is probably the next, just in terms of the grandiose nature of, everything being in the air and the initial town too, and just how cool it's structured and
God,
everything
that
like that. It's like
I can
everything.
just picture the music right now. You just mentioned the town, and I could just hear
Yeah,
just like in everything flowing. Oh, it's so
yeah.
good.
But like that's really cool, and that would get me to go back and rewatch it, even though I've seen it a couple times now. So
Yeah.
it's stuff like that. But on a personal level, it's a lot more refined to just being like, how am I feeling? Am I in the fully cooly mood? Yeah, let's go listen to the Pillows. And I'm so sad
R.I.P.
that they broke up. Um, and watch some chaoticness, or let's throw on Cowboy Bebop and just fucking lounge and chill and watch
Yeah.
Spike do his shenanigans out in space. Like it, it doesn't take it. Well, I shouldn't say it doesn't take. It takes a lot for me to want to go back and rewatch it, but when I do it, it's pretty simple. Good sounds, good nostalgia. You got me hooked.
Yeah, and there are definitely shows that are out there that I'm like, man, I really want to just rewatch this because either A, it's gotten a new season out of fucking nowhere. Like Code Geass is still going, and I keep forgetting about it. And I'm like, I really should just rewatch it, and then I can watch all the new stuff.
Hmm.
But I'm like, fuck, man, that is a commitment because it's 50 episodes for the first 2 seasons,
Yeah.
which is nothing to sneeze at.
No.
But then there are other shows that I know that are magnificent, and I would personally rate as like a 10 out of 10. I'm like, there's no way you can get me to go rewatch that again. Either A, for the fact that it's like I know all the plot twists, like, it's not going to surprise me anymore. I don't necessarily need to see all the details. That one being kind of Steins Gate more than anything. I think Steins Gate is wonderful.
Hmm.
Probably won't go back and rewatch it. And then there are others that I like, I think are magnificent, or I thought were magnificent, that I'm like, was this actually magnificent? I'm scared to go back and rewatch it. Like I know like by no means is the show that I'm about to mention like a 10 out of 10 or even a 9 out of 10, but like I watched Baka and Test so far long back ago that I was like, it's a great show. It's such a fun comedy. And then we rewatched it for the podcast. I'm like, oh man, that is not great.
Yeah.
And there are a few shows on my list that I'm like, I want to rewatch it, but I'm scared that my opinion about it is going to be awful. Like, I don't remember how Angel Beats was. Like, I remember it being a phenomenal show. I don't remember what it's like anymore. It's been a decade plus since I've watched it. So it's just, yeah, it's a matter of just like, there are a few that I'm just like, yeah, we'll just leave the rose tinted glasses on for those, and I don't need to watch it again.
Yeah.
But Yeah, no, there are still a few things that I watch here and there. I think the only thing that I won't say constantly rewatch, but I've rewatched multiple times that I haven't mentioned is Gurren Lagann. Anything by Trigger, basically Trigger or before Trigger, which I know
Yeah,
Gurren Lagann was. I'll go back and I'll rewatch it because those shows are so much fun. Like Gurren Lagann, Kill a Kill, like those two,
yeah.
fantastic, fun rewatches despite being some of them being more problematic than others, but like
Eh,
yeah, no, those shows are great, but it does take a certain sense of not necessarily urgency, but like it does take a certain motivation to go back and rewatch some things more than others. It's easier to rewatch a comedy than it is something super serious like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. So, yeah, but
yeah.
on that note, last thing I'll mention, we've been talking about movies and old movies coming back into the theaters, and I'd be remiss if I don't mention the fact that Vampire Hunter D is coming back to theaters for the first time in a while, but for its 40th anniversary. It
Jeez
is coming
Louise.
back. Yeah, it's coming back early April. So I'm actually looking at my theaters currently, seeing what day I should go to it, but um, go definitely check it out. Go get tickets to that because finding a Blu-ray copy, let alone a DVD copy, is going to run you about $80 because it's out of print. The only way you can really
Ugh.
consume it legally right now is to buy the omnibuses. So it's one of those things of, hey, this is a perfect time to go back and watch this movie because unless if you own it already, it's pretty impossible outside of sailing the high seas. So definitely go give your local theater a look and see if they have tickets still available. With that, thank you all for joining us this week. It's a short and simple and sweet episode this week, so greatly appreciate you sticking around this long. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode, but if you want more of us, go to our social medias at Baka&Co Podcast on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, yada yada yada, where we are posting pretty much daily at this point. We're back into the swing of things, so you can get content from us there, whether it be news, reviews, previews, etc. We have it all. So until next time, y'all. Spark Triumph. We'll see you then.